No way. Tell me when we're ready to do this. Oh, we're ready? I'm sorry. Hey, we're keeping distance. Let me get rid of this. Okay. How's everybody doing? It's Friday. It means Festool Live, baby. And guess what? It's Festool Friday. Wow, are we excited today? Yes, we're covering one of the top questions we get over the whole Festool system. What sander should I start with? Because I want to buy just one to get going. And we have a huge selection. You're going to see quite a few of them today. But first, and I never want to start without giving accolades to everybody in this room. On this camera right here is Chris Seibert. He's our camera dude and producer. Over here, wearing the mask. Everybody in here is wearing a mask. This is Big D, Derek Clemens. Over here is the wonderful, the amazing Minnie Gleb, and she's working our whiteboard for us today. So make sure you're sending us questions, okay? And online, we have Brent Shively, our other trainer for North America. Man, he is an integral part of this. He does a great job. He gets all those specs that you guys are asking and gals are asking. And also, I just want to call out a few things, a few people. We have Jason Bent from Bent's Woodworking. What a wicked cool guy. He answers questions too. He lives in this area now. Jason, how are you? And already we have people from the Netherlands. Woo! Canada's online. And from that really obscure country known as Ohio. Okay. Really quick, there's a group of individuals out there that I need to call out. They've been calling me and thanking us for doing Festool Live. And they're really hard-working individuals here at Festool, and you probably know them in your area. I want to call out all our sales managers for doing such a fantastic job during these trying times, and also all our directors. Thank you, guys. Thank you for all the hard work you're doing. You guys are the rock stars. All right. Okay, so let's get at it. Let's start talking sanders. And let me point you in the right direction. Okay, there's a lot of information we can impart on you today. I do not want to be confusing. I want to break it down as simple as possible. When we were setting this up today, the guys were going, oh my God, how many sanders are you going to break out? And I said, well, I don't want to leave any stone unturned, but you're going to understand there's only one sander. Let's take a quick pan, Chris. Let's go. Look, we got all these sanders. Check it out. Look at all of these sanders. Look at all of these. I'm right in front of you. Look at all of them. Okay? And when I'm finished today, you're going to understand point blank, the king of all sanders is right here, baby. It's the RO 150, the Rotex 150. Okay? And I was on, I think, the North America Festool fan Facebook page a couple days ago, and I was scrolling through, and someone said the question was, hey, what Rotex should I get? And it was it was really cool to hear and see some of the comments, people saying, oh, RO150, RO150, and the RO90. So the good one to start with, and you'll understand in a few minutes, the RO150. Okay, so that's a 6-inch one. Okay, good. Okay, now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a basic training on sanding in our sanding groups. Now, you can see there's a heck of a selection here at Festool. Okay, always remember, all our sanders hook up to the dust extractors. Okay, and if someone says, oh, I don't know if I want to get a Festool dust extractor, get the Festool dust extractor because it has variable suction on there, and that is why we have it for our sanders. In other words, you're probably up against one of these wonderful things. You usually see it when you're spraying some lacquer or you're spraying some any kind of finish or some stain. It's those little swirl marks. If we have time, I'll show you how to eliminate some of those, and it's with the dust extractor. That's why we have variable suction. Turn down the suction rate, and it's one of the variables. It's too much, and you get too much vibration in the sander, and it's too much friction. Okay, so I got off on a tangent already. I apologize, but let's start. And when I have the MFTs, and I was setting them up this morning, I want to go through this. I broke it down in categories of sanders. Okay, these are the orbitals. Chris, right over here, let's pan over. These are the random orbits. This is the Rotex group, but it also has random orbit. Then we have linear, and we have rotary. All right. Now, when I was setting this up, people have been asking, Sedge, do a Playnex Festool live. It's on the books. I'm going to do it. Next week's live, you better tune in because this is the biggest request I think we've gotten so far from all of you since we did our first Festool Live, episode 1, and that was on the Domino. Next week, we're going to do the DF500 connectors, and it's going to be quite lengthy because I'm going to break it all down, and we're going to build a couple of joints with it. Okay, so I just want to zing you on what's coming next Friday. Okay, yes, there will be a Playnex video, I promise. Okay, now let's go over here, not Minnie's whiteboard, but the whiteboard I want to show you because our basic training is the different orbits, okay? And when you look at this as we go and I break this down, this is the way I was taught, okay? The orbital sanders have an orbit like this, okay? And then the next category does this, okay? But not only is it vibrating like that, your quarter sheet sanders, but it also spins, okay? So this is your orbital, okay? And I'm just going to lay this out. This is your random orbit, okay? And then, when you're using a random orbit, you put a lot of pressure, the pad stops. What if you have a random orbit sander, and you can put as much pressure as you want on it, and the pad doesn't stop? We always call it a geared random orbit. But that's the Rotex. Not only is it doing this orbit, but it's spinning. It's so hard to describe. I will show you in a few minutes with a quick demo I have. But this is a Rotex. We drop a pin in there, and it's geared. That's the Rotex mode. So anybody who owns a Rotex, okay, will understand, boy, that's really aggressive, more aggressive. And if you have an orbital, a square sheet sander, okay, it's less aggressive. Okay, now we have 2 more orbits. It's linear, okay? And that goes down here on the less aggressive. And then you have rotary, okay, which is very aggressive. It's constantly spinning. There's no random orbit to it, and that's rotary. Those are the different categories of orbits in our system, okay? So when you break it down, this is how I have the table set up. I'm not covering all of them. I am concentrating on the second to middle one with the Rotex. Okay, but the best way I can describe sanding is grabbing a piece of paper. Okay? And I call it paper. You got to be kidding. Oh my God. David, is that you? David McGivern is watching. Oh my God, I am so honored. I am watching you too. David is known as the embellishment marshal. I worked with David my first week at Festool 13 years ago. David, good to see you. Glad you're watching. Okay, so really quick, I love calling him out. Really quick, see this? Everybody calls this paper. In Germany, I was taught this is the tool. Think of your sanding abrasive as the tool. And you got to choose the machine on how to move the tool. There's a lot to the tool. Like, why do I need Rubin versus Granite? Those are 2 different flavors in our papers, okay, or our tools. But what grit should I start at? It's all about the application. And boy, we've taught a lot about just this tool for me in the last 5 years than more about the sanders. Okay. Let's get back to the sanders. I can tell you, I could do a whole Festool live just on paper. All right. So when we talk about the tool, which orbit do I need to use an orbital or a random orbit or a Rotex? And this is why the Rotex always wins, because you have both modes. You have a finer finish sander and an aggressive, super aggressive in the Rotex mode sander. You're basically buying 2, 3 sanders because you can actually polish with the Rotex. Follow me? I hope. Okay, and I will break that down a little bit further. We're going to go over to the Rotex, but always remember this is the tool. Okay? And I'm going to choose the Rotex because I can fine finish with it, but I can also remove stock like unbelievable. You probably have a belt sander, right? A belt sander has so many problems in the usage of it because if you tilt that ever so slightly, you get gouging. And the pattern is just taking that abrasive or that grit in a linear motion, but it's, of course, it's on a belt, and you get those scratch marks like this that are wicked hard to get out. Not with the Rotex. It's almost as aggressive as a belt sander, but you won't have those striation, and it's a control thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step over here. I'm just going to get a little hand sanitizer with the T-Lock hand sanitizer. This is the best hand sanitizer on the market. Whoop, 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 whoop. Okay, let's step over here to the Rotex. Okay, you have a choice. You have a 3.5 inch, you have a 5 inch, and you have a 6 inch. Now, if somebody comes up to me, say at a trade show or in a training, and say, which one should I get? And it's always 5 inch or 6 inch. I look at them in the eye and I say this. I say, do you like to sand? And everybody looks at me and goes, what do you mean? I go, do you like to, spend hours sanding? And they go, no, I hate sanding. I go, so don't I. Sanding's a wicked drag. Okay? And it's also on, and somebody says, hey, what grit should I start at? I go, do you like to sand? And they go, what do you mean? I go, I want to start with the lowest possible grit and work my way through the grits. Follow? And that way there. Now, this is plywood. You've got to understand what you're sanding. Now, with something like this, okay, where we've just put these two pieces of maple together, okay, with dominoes, and I need to level this ever so slightly, okay? I'm not going to start with 120, okay, because 120, man, it means I like to sand. I'm going to spend hours and hours on 120. What I would do is I would cut it first with 40 grit, then 60, then 80, then go to 120. And guess what? If I had started with 120, it's probably half the time if I start with 40 and work my way up to the 120. That's what you have to think. What am I sanding? Why am I sanding? Like something like this. This is plywood. Okay? This is veneered with a poplar core. This is very thin. It almost looks like it's sprayed on sometimes, right? That was for you, Chris. Okay. Now, it's important to understand I'm not going to start with 40 grit. I'm not starting with 80. A woodwork automatically starts with 80 grit. That's a no-no, especially with something like this. Start with 40, work your way up. This is a no-no at 80 grit because this is surface standard from most plywood manufacturers at 120. So what you're trying to do is you're just trying to remove maybe a little bit of glue residue or some witness marks that you left on there. Follow me? Hopefully I'm making a little bit of sense. Okay, so here's why 5 versus 6. Okay, you will get the job done quicker with a 6 inch because it's the surface area. It's not an inch, it's the surface area. Okay, where the difference between a 5 and 6 is 32.5% more. David, I hope that is a good statistic. Chris Devlin told me that one. Okay, and the difference between the 3 inch and the 6 inch is 315% more surface area. Always think surface area. So I'm going to cover a larger range with a 6 inch. Okay, so let's go over a few things on the Rotex. And it's going to be questions that over the years we've gotten as trainers from you, where one of the number one things we hear is, I'm having a hard time controlling my Rotex sander. Okay? Oh my God, it's so easy. Watch. Usually at a trade show, someone will come up to me and go, man, you're making that look easy with the Rotex. And I go, no, it's the way I'm holding it. They go, what do you mean? Okay, so I'll show you. Really quick, if we can come in here and see this. Okay, so you have these two switches up top. You have this one, okay? This is your mode selection switch, okay? See the fine dots on every Rotex? The tiny dots are the random orbit, okay? And if I put it in the coarser dots or the bigger dots, listen, you hear that click? It is now a geared random orbit, okay? And this is your on-off. Okay, now, I'm going to put this in Rotex. I just want to show you where I hold it. See back here? If I hold it like here, okay, see this? I'm only using this part of the pad. See it? Okay? This is what we call a wheel. Think about using a grinder like this. This is basically spinning like a grinder, but with an eccentric orbit. Okay? If I turn this on, this is going to bounce all over. Watch. See it? Okay? But what if I hold it back here? The wheel, this is a wheel, it now becomes a pad. So if I hold it back here, and you can see this top right here? This is a heat sink. The motor can get quite hot, but if you hold it here, watch. And all my controls with my thumb. I have it in Rotex. Look. See how I can control it? The pad is actually working as a pad, moving the tool so I can remove stock quickly. Okay. Now, random orbit. I'm going to put it in random orbit. And for quite a few years, I've described random orbit and Rotex and what's the difference. I have heard all kinds. And David, if you're still watching, I got to tell you, you sent an internal memo once on how it was it was a cool formula on the orbit of the Rotex. Oh my God, it took me about 8 coffees to get through. But I will tell you, it explained it perfectly from a real analytical viewpoint. And then I heard another person say, hey, it kind of takes the grit and moves it like a spirograph around. And I was like, okay. And then I would describe it as, like I said earlier, it's 2 tools in one, sometimes 3. You can polish with it. It's like a belt sander, an aggressive sander, and it's a fine sander. Until I saw somebody do a demonstration once, and I went, okay, it really cemented in my head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I love doing this demonstration because people get the Rotex mode on the sander when I do this, okay? I'm going to divide this board in 2. I'm going to write random orbit here, and I'm going to write Rotex here. Okay, and what we're going to do is I'm going to do a simple, probably 10 count on this side, and then a 10 count on here. Look, I'm going to put a mark right here, just like that, okay? Simple. And I'm going to put it in random orbit, okay? And let's do a simple 10 pass. Watch. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. There's 5. There's 6. There's 7. 8, 9, and 10. Okay, if you noticed, I didn't put a lot of pressure. Now, what I want to do is I want to copy the same line here. I don't want to bag here. I want to make sure I do apples to apples and not make it any lighter or darker. Okay, never mind. Okay, so what I'm going to do, stop laughing, Chris. You're shaking the camera. I'm going to put it in the Rotex mode, watch, and you're going to hear the click. Okay, now it's geared, all right? Same pressure. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on this. Watch. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. There's 5. And I did this one time in a demonstration at one of our dealers, and one guy looked at me in the face and said, you know, it's about twice as fast. I was like a deer in the headlights. I think that's what I told you earlier. You have to see it. So anytime we're out and about, I always make sure you guys and gals really feel the power of the Rotex. And I love teaching people how to hold it properly so you have a really good understanding of it. Okay, now, the nice thing about the Rotex and all our Rotexes, I'm going to take this off so you can see this. Okay, is right here. Because I'm going to talk about a question which I think, oh, yeah. There it is. Okay. How to change the pad and the pad to use. Okay, beautiful. It's like, hey, man, are you setting me up? Too cool. Okay. See this green button here? Hey, I don't know if anybody knows. Well, I think you all know this. In the early days, no one knew this, but we started talking about it a lot, and now everybody knows. Anything on here that's green means something. So I have a customer who came in and said, hey, listen, my Rotex is broken right here, and he didn't understand what this green part is. This comes right off. So if you're polishing, okay, you can remove the nozzle. Okay, that's green, right? What does that do? Now, I hear all this all the time. I can't change my pad. I got my button. This is how you change the pad. This is the fast fix button. If you look, the arrows are pointing up. You push up and in. Okay, but here's the kicker. Watch. See how I push up and in? I can't take the pad off. See that? Watch, everybody. It has to be in Rotex mode because that pin is holding it in there. And I can take this and watch. It spins right off. See how easy that is? Cool. Okay. That's the pad that comes with it. We call it the soft pad. But we have a couple extra pads that you can use. Like, say I'm doing some fine finishing, and I need, this is not a contour pad. We call it super soft. I don't know if you know this, but our pads are all color-coded. Soft is the pad that comes with most of the sanders. Super soft, I always will tell you, if you're finishing finishes, use the super soft. It absorbs some of the grit. Okay? The other one that I will point out is this one. This is the hard pad, okay? It's always blue. Hard pads are blue. I'll put a piece of grit on here. So say I'm feathering something, and I do need to get up. Say I'm feathering some paint chips in, or I want to, look, over here. See this edge right here? It's crisp. I don't want to round it over, so this keeps it nice and crisp. And I automatically go to a hard pad when I have ridges or offsets on my glue ups. That way there, it's for fairing right across, okay? I love using hard pads for fairing. I automatically, you'll see on my RO90, I use this on face frames. This is too much pad for a face frame. This is perfect. And it keeps those face frames, say I'm doing 2-inch face frames, it keeps them wicked crisp, okay? That's why a hard pad. Now, there's another pad in our arsenal. I just did a video on this. This is called our backing pad. It's for polishing. There's no holes in this. Okay, when I say polishing, we are looking to do a polishing video for everybody, okay, with the Rotex, okay, to go over it. But if we look here, let me take this paper off, okay. You see how the pad goes right to the edge of our bonnets, okay, our application pads? What if I'm going up against an adjacent surface? This could mar the adjacent surface. Where this is just, this is not for the 5-inch sander, it's for the Rotex 6-inch RO150. You have a little bit of a buffer there, so if I go up against an adjacent surface, I won't mar anything. Okay, and that's why we have that pad. Cool? All right, so hopefully that answered that question. What's the difference between, oh, whoo, that's a good question. Is it really? Are you setting me up, Benster? Okay, good. Hey, by the way, that is an extremely common question. Thanks, Jason. Okay. What we're talking about is what's the difference between an ETS EC 150/3? Look. The 6-inch sander and the 5-inch sander. I'm sorry, 6-inch sander, but a 5-stroke. The number up top, these are both 6-inch sanders. They're identical except for the stroke size. Okay, and what is the stroke size? Okay. I mean, a telltale sign, and I always do this. I break it as quick as I can. See this 6-inch sander? It's for rapid stock removal. This one is for a less aggressive orbit. It comes with the super soft pad. Now, if you remember a couple minutes ago, I said the super soft pad I always use when I'm finishing a finish. Say I'm going from 800 grit to 1,000 to 1,200. I'm polishing my finishes. I will sand first with this and a super soft pad because I need a less aggressive stroke. Now, if I turn these on, each one of them, and did a test like I did over here with the Rotex, side by side, and we blindfolded. Anybody could walk up here, including myself. None of us could tell the difference if we held them. But if I went, and I set myself up with 120 and Big D at 120, he was on the 5 and he was on the 3. You would finish before, I was on the 5, or were you on the 3, Derek? Do you remember? I can't, I'm just kidding. Okay, whoever was on the 5 would finish quicker than the 3. In other words, you have to understand what you're sanding. Why would you want to go slower in sanding if you hate sanding? It's because you've built up many layers of polyurethane and you don't want to burn through a blanket of finish or a mil or two of lacquer, so you want to sand a little bit slower. Follow me? I'm hoping. Now, what I'd like to do is hook it up and you can see the difference. By the way, the 5 and the 3 are the stroke size, and I'll show you the difference. That's a 5 and that's a 3, because if I measure across with my folding ruler, you would see that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick test so you can see this. Okay, I'm going to grab the 3. I'm just going to put the plug it in. Okay, so you can see it. Okay, and hopefully this will. Okay, I'm going to make a dot right there. And that's what I want you to focus in, Chris, really quick. Now, don't do this at home. I'm going to hold the pad. Watch. Did you see how it made a circle?
Wait, hold on a second.
Focus on that, Chris.
There you go.
Okay, that's a 3 millimeter diameter circle. Okay? So it's taking that grit and going around a small circumference. Now, if I take this and put it on the 5, okay, and watch, I'm going to hook that up. And I'm going to make that same dot. Hopefully we can get this in focus. I'm going to make that dot right there. Got it, Chris?
Yep.
Okay, watch. Whoopsie. Whoa. You see how it got bigger? Hopefully you can see this. Did you see it? It got a lot larger, okay? That, if I measured that distance across that circle, it would be 5 millimeters. So that's the difference. And of course, it's carrying that grit a larger distance around the circumference, so it's a lot more aggressive. Hopefully that made sense. Okay. Minnie? Okay, what paper is best for sanding polyurethane for a finish coat? Granite. If you ask me, what's the best paper for sanding solid surface? Granite. If you ask me what's the best for sanding paint, removing paint, Granite. Okay, so what I did is, this is another top question. I prepared for it. Let me give you a little paper overview of what we got and why we have it. Okay, how we doing on time, guys? Good? Good. Okay, here we go. If you are sanding wood and wood only, Rubin 2. Okay, I set up a project in here for someone to sand, and I set him up with Granite sandpaper because that's what I use the majority of the time. And he came back to me and says, I grabbed some of your Rubin. He goes, I prefer the Rubin because he liked the scratch pattern. He seemed easier. Guess what he was sanding? Raw wood, bare wood. I should have set him up with this. Okay, so that's Rubin. This is Granite. It is. Minnie's laughing. Hey! Am I seeing what? Alan, how are you, buddy? He's over at Anderson Plywood. Good to see you, pal. Good to see you there. Okay, so really quick, Granite sandpaper is available in 40 grit all the way to 1500 grit. Okay, you should never sand bare wood above 180 grit. So someone says, well, why do you get it up for? Why do you have it all the way up to 1500? For sanding finishes, or sanding. Why do you have 320? Sanding in between coats of in between coats of finish. If you sand above 180 on bare wood, you are burnishing the pore. You're losing absorption and you're losing claw or adhesion point of your finishes or penetration of your stains and oils. Only sand to 180, okay? Bare wood. Okay. Now, from 40, okay, so all of these are I'm sorry, guys. I got too much information in my brain. Almost all our paper is aluminum oxide, including Granite. Granite's aluminum oxide, but in 40 grit, 60 grit, and 80 grit, there's also ceramic in there. This cuts like wildfire and doesn't load as much. Why do you think I like it? Okay, this here, and you can't see this, but you can feel it. And if we had feel-o-vision, you would see this is sapphire. And this is available in very low grits. I think it only goes to 80 grit. I think we start at, 36. I think it goes down. No, it goes down to 24 grit. This is for thick layers or multiple layers of paint removal. We have this. This is spelled VLIES. It's pronounced fleece, like a fleece sweatshirt. It's basically a, ooh, I gotta be careful, Scotch Brite pad. And we have them in different flavors, different colors. They match up with other brands out there. But what's cool about it is you know what you use this for. I used to use it for knocking the rust off of my cast iron. But you know what? This is great for blending oils. We have all the way up to very fine. Also, this is platine. Platine is a variable. Listen to these grits. And by the way, this is silicone carbide. Okay, it's got a foam back. The dust is pulled through the foam. And what's nice about this is available in 400 all the way to 4,000. Okay, this is good for polishing acrylics, getting different patinas on solid surface, or different finishes, different lusters. Wow. Now, we have something else out there. I think I have one, a piece of it. Oh, boy, do I hope I have it. I think I have it over here. And there's so much, we could go on for hours talking about sanding, but I want to go over one more piece of paper that we came out recently. It's called Granite. It doesn't rip from the side. It's very sturdy. Okay, it's a screen with aluminum oxide on that screen. Okay, it pulls through. It's easy to align. But here's what I want to point out. This is not one of our interface pads. Okay, this is what we call a protection pad. When you use Granite, make sure you use a protection pad, because this will, like any net product out there, will tear up our stick fix hook and loops. So always use a protection pad. I think they're available. I think you get 2 of them. They come in a 2-pack for like $10 or whatever. They're wonderful to have if you're using net. This is not our interface pad. Our interface pad is a different type of animal. Okay, what is our opinion on dust collection velocity and each sander? Wow, do we have 2 hours? let me just. By the way, that's a good question. And when you say velocity, dust collection velocity, it's how much your suction rate. I use variable speed or variable suction when I am using orbitals in random orbits. But when I go to Rotex mode, nothing's stopping the pad. Nothing's breaking surface tension. So I'm always, so it's either all the way up or all the way down. Listen, everybody come over here so I can do this. I am going to grab one of my favorite sanders. It's the DTS 400. I'm going to hook it up, and I'm going to hopefully be able to, you'll be able to see this or actually hear it. Okay, so I'm going to turn on the sander. And Chris, this would be cool if you could come over and pan down here so we can talk about the dust extractor right here. We're going to get there. Okay, look. I'm going to put it on manual so you can hear this. Okay? And if you can come up over here, I'm going to view down here. Let's get this out of the way. There we go. This is my variable suction. I have it on manual. Do you see how I turn it all the way down? So, I'm going to turn this up. I'm going to put it on auto. I'm all plugged in, and I'm going to turn this on. Okay, and watch. I'm going to show you something. See this? This is how much suction's here. I'm picking this up. See this? Now, if let me lock it in. If I'm sanding this, this is pulling down. Okay, let me switch this around so you can see it. I think this is a better view. Okay, watch. Okay, that's too much suction. You gotta feel this. I'm gonna turn it all the way down, and this starts to float. Okay? In other words, it's one of the variables that causes a swirl mark. If you, there's several variables, but if you have too much pull down, okay, you're going to get swirl marks. Here's another one, and a lot of people don't realize swirl marks, oh God, I hate saying this, is sanding technique. Okay, here's one I see all the time. Watch. See how you started on there? Watch. See how I just stopped it? There's a swirl mark, I can guarantee on there. You always start on the material. This is the way I was taught. And to turn the machine off, You turn the machine off after you take it off, okay? Cool. And the other thing, too, is this. Don't put too much pressure on there. If you're putting too much pressure, guess what you got to do? Lower the grit of the paper. Follow? You're just wasting your time because next thing you know, you got a really deep swirl mark in there and you got to take it out. And it's not going to come out until you see it when? When you put your stain or finish or oil on. Okay, hopefully that answered velocity. I'm hoping. I never turn down the vac, the dust extractor, when I'm in Rotex because what we're doing is we're breaking the surface tension. Okay, whew, oh my God, Minnie, this is unbelievable. Look at all these people. We have Saudi Arabia, Monterey. We have North Carolina, Romania, Australia, Vijay Kumar, EU classes. I love it. We have Washington, UK. We have Georgia, California, Frost, Hardwood Lumber. How are you? The Philippines, Poland, Richmond, Virginia, Woodcraft. Woo! Good to hear from you guys. Now you're talking. We have Germany. We have Michigan. We have Texas. Texas is one hell of a country. Okay. And one more question is going up, and we're going to finish up. Can you discuss maintenance of sanders? Okay. So here's what I'm going to show you. Yes, I can. And I want to mention this to you. It has to do with what I just discussed. It's called swirl marks. Okay, watch. I'm going to step over here, and I realized this when I was in Germany. I was in a training with our automotive trainers, and every time they changed a piece of paper, they did this. See the pad? Everybody, come in here, Chris, so you can see this. See the pad? You see how you have here? Okay, but look at this. See this right here? Okay, I saw these guys doing this. They were picking off these little pieces or vacuuming. Look, and if you do that in between pieces of paper, okay, guess what? You won't have, especially if you're using really high grits, like on Granite sandpaper from 800 to 1500. It's a film back. That little piece of wood or whatever could have gotten in there would transfer. It would transfer through that film. So that's the best maintenance I can tell you. I know people I always vacuum out here, and that's about it. One thing I will tell you, and it's basic usage of a sander, okay, is don't do this for a long period of time. I just have it here because I was throwing these around. But these are always stored, and you will always see they are always stored in the sustainer, so you are not leaning on this. The other thing I will teach you every single time, and I get crazy on this when I open up, and I know someone's been in the training center because I'll open up my sustainer, and this will be stored without paper. Always store your sander with paper on it. Okay, that way there you don't degrade the hooks on the pad. The best maintenance is the pad itself. Okay, we have Liverpool, England. The Beatles are watching. Woo! Lithuania, I know that's you, Solius. We have Colorado, Malta. We have Kentucky. And everybody, I think that's a wrap for us. For Chris, Minnie, Brent, Big D. Jason, thank you. That was a really good question. I just want to say thank you. Oh, my God, Minnie. You are a savior. And I want to do a big shout out again to Philip Stranad. He is the guy running the Festool Live program and doing a great job. So we will see you here next week. I know somebody wanted to know the topic last week, and I called it out. We're going to do DF500 connectors with the DF500. Woo! And I'm already starting to prepare for it. Also, I think we're doing a live Wednesday, aren't we? Okay, we're going to do next week we're doing a twofer, and we're going to be doing, I think, some cordless. I think the T18 Easy, and it's our new launch coming out. It's available July 1st. So, enough of that. You guys have a great weekend. Stay safe. I'm going to a pool party in the Lake of the Ozarks. See you guys later. Woo!